Hey everybody, Kyle here with episode 2 of Analytics for You. Today's episode we're going to talk about analytics platforms and tracking the right things. So first off, what analytics platforms are out there? That's a big question because there are so many analytics platforms. It seems like every day that some company is now creating some sort of tracking pixel. So some examples are Google Analytics and Facebook Pixel, which are two of the bigger ones. They do a lot of the box, so they have very little setup. Some other big names out there are Hotjar and Klaviyo, Snapchat Pixel, and there's so many more. I can go into an entire video just talking about analytics platforms and the differences. So next question, though, is what analytics platform is right for me? This is completely based on what makes sense for your business. So what you're looking to do. So Google Analytics and Facebook Pixel, as I mentioned, they provide a lot of core e-commerce information right out of the box. So you just have to add the tracking snippet code to your site, and from there it will report all your kind of general purchase data as customers go through. Things like Hotjar, they do screen recordings and heat mapping on a site, so it kind of helps you, gives you some insight into the pain points of your site. So for example, say you have a product page and you can see that people view the page for 10 seconds, expand the info tab, and then they drop off. So maybe the description wasn't clear, and you didn't provide the crucial information they needed. So another thing you want to kind of focus on, or keep in mind anyway, is data bloat, so, as I like to call it. So, it's great to gather data, but you also want to make sure that you're tracking the right things, and you're not just tracking with a bunch of platforms just to do it. So a good example is Snapchat Pixel. So people use it mainly because they sell things on Snapchat. But they also have websites. So it makes sense to kind of cover all of that. However, if you're not selling things on Snapchat, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. So you really kind of have to figure that out and what makes sense for you. So, lastly, I kind of want to talk about the importance of apps on your website. So when adding apps to your website, you want to make sure that what you're adding provides value, and it kind of is serving that purpose that sort of matches your goal. So if you're wanting to increase your average cart value, you probably want to look at some app that does upsells or bundling, or provides discounted, other discounted products. You want to do anything you can to kind of up that thing. So another part of that is that you also need to be mindful of what you're adding to your site, especially on the code side of things. They can sometimes impact analytics. So a great example is cross-domain tracking. So if you have, you start a Google Analytics session, someone comes from Google, and then they land on your site. From there, they navigate to product pages, they add to cart, they are on the cart page, and then you have some sort of app that has, say, a pop-up or something else that when you click that checkout button, it interrupts that sort of data being tracked. And then what happens is you end up with a split session. So what that means is you then have two customer IDs, even though it's one customer. One is doing everything from Google all the way to the cart, and then you have one that just somehow was right on the checkout page and then just purchased. So you don't really want that because that's going to skew your data, right? You have more customers now potentially than what you actually have, according to that. And then your transactions and your conversion rate is all messed up because of that as well. You want to make sure that you're getting as accurate a data as possible to really make sure that you're capturing, as much of that customer journey as possible to really give insight to your customers, so you can make your site better for them. Also, you also want to make sure that apps don't crowd a page. I've seen many sites where, they have the sliding spin out wheel, they have a chat thing that pops up, and then they have, banners and everything, and it's just very busy, and sometimes that will actually deter people because it's great to have apps that do a lot of different things, but having so much going on one page, a lot of people will see that and be like, that's a lot going on, and either will find it too distracting and won't bother, or they'll look at it and be like, well, this site's clearly not what it seems to be. So those are kind of important things to keep in mind. And lastly, I kind of want to talk about one concept of, at the end of the day, when you're doing your tracking and using, kind of figuring out what apps you want to use for a store, it's about one thing I want you to take away from this is it matters what you're trying to accomplish, and what your business is. So you want, I've seen businesses before that do this, and drop shipping sites are notoriously kind of bad for this, in my opinion, is site comes out and they're like, we're going to be like the next Wish.com. And it's like, I'm not saying you can't, be the next Wish.com, because who knows, someone might have some better improvement on what they're already doing. But why try to be the same thing for someone who's already doing it very well? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying dropshipping sites shouldn't do it, but like, don't be exactly like Wish. Like, if you're going to dropship stuff, like, people dropship clothing, be specific. There's a million coffee shops or like coffee stores out there, and it's about setting yourself apart. That gives you that perceived value, right? So like, YouTube content is no different. So YouTube content, people come back because they believe they're getting value out of it. So, if you go and watch a video and you're like, I feel like say if it's something like this and you're like, I learned nothing, I don't think that's useful. Those types of things, people aren't going to come back. But if people are like, oh, I like the perspective, or hey, I learned something, those are things that people are going to be like, that sort of muscle memory almost at that point where they're like, that guy's really smart, or like, car videos. That's my big thing is like, there's a couple guys that like, when I have to fix something on my car, I strictly go to them because like, they explain it in a great way. They're very like easy to watch, and the information's easy to take in. And like, I really enjoy it, and I find that that's sort of, I'm like, this guy's super smart. He knows exactly what he's doing. He knows how to teach people to do it themselves. So that's that perceived value that I get out of it. But in like for coffee stores, if you're a coffee shop, you don't want to just be like, I have this plethora of coffees, and if you're selling like generic coffees, that's fine. But like, there's a million coffee shops out there. So what sets you apart? Maybe you have a really cool coffee club. I've seen a lot of different like neat implementations of coffee club type things. Maybe you have your own special blend that's very unique and like specific to you. That's just a completely different beast. And those are things to really keep in mind and hammer home, that when you're building your site, that you want to look different. There's nothing worse than going to a website and clearly looking, well, it's like, oh, well, this is just like a cookie cutter thing that they just slap their branding on. Because again, then people are just like, well, I don't, it's like, oh, this looks like this other site. Well, I could just go to that other site. So I want you guys to keep that in mind. That's going to do it for me today. Again, if you guys like these videos, or if you have any feedback or anything that you guys would like to see me cover, please let me know in the comments, and I would be so happy to hear from you guys. And have a great day.